Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. I'm Iris, I'm a software engineer based in Switzerland. I got a couple questions on my last video on how I became a software engineer, what made me get into tech. So today I wanted to sit down with you guys and chat a little bit about my journey to becoming a software engineer. So without further ado, let's get started. Growing up, I was never really interested in tech. I was always more of a creative person. I was really good at drawing, so I always thought that I would end up as an artist or someone who at least works in the creative industry. In the Austrian school system, we have these types of schools where you not only graduate with your A-levels, but on top you get some vocational training in different fields. I, for example, went to a school which had an emphasis on economics. There are also some which focus more on computer science or chemistry or languages, for example. When I was around 16, 17, I had a really good friend who went to one of these schools for computer science. And he would always get random job offers from companies in our area. And I was always impressed by how easy it is for him to network. So I thought to myself, wow, I really wish I was interested in tech because it seemed like you had all those open doors and a lot of opportunities. But due to my lack of interest in computer science and tech in general, I never even considered going to one of these schools. But it was fine. I enjoyed going to my own school and I wasn't particularly interested in economics, but I knew that I was gonna be able to study whatever I want afterwards, so it was fine. So once I graduated from school, I wanted to study graphic design. I applied for a graphic design school in Germany. I passed their entrance exam and I was super happy. One of their requirements to start studying graphic design, though, was for you to do an internship in a company which was somehow related to design. And I had done an internship in a print studio, so I thought I was safe. Then, 2 weeks before the first semester started, I got a letter saying they couldn't accept me for this year because basically in my internship I wasn't working with a lot of specific design software like InDesign and Photoshop, which was a real bummer. But they told me that since I passed the entrance exam, I could just go and do another internship and then they would accept me the next semester. Now, since this was only 2 weeks before the new semester started, I already had a room and I was in the process of moving there, so I kinda didn't want to give that up. And after being sad for a while, I thought, well, maybe I can just apply for another university in the same city and start studying something else for 1 semester, and then after that semester I would switch back to graphic design. In Europe, we're very privileged because you don't have to take up a student loan to be able to study. Basically, all our universities are for free. It's not the same in all countries, but at least in Austria and Germany. So you can just go to university for 1 semester and see if you like it and then either continue or not. So I looked up the other university's website and the only majors you could still apply for at this time, because it was already 2 weeks before the semester started, were in tech. So I was like, you know what? Let's just do it, let's just give it a try. I'm gonna apply for computer science and it might be super helpful later in life if I ever have to work with computers, I guess. Basically, I had no idea what computer science was all about. So the semester starts, I'm making friends with a couple of people and our lectures were really difficult. I kid you not, I was sitting in my maths lecture and I literally didn't understand anything. Even though I was quite good at maths in school, everything just seems so complicated. But since I knew that I was gonna switch back to graphic design after 1 semester, I didn't have a lot of pressure, so for me it was fine. During this first semester, we also had a programming course. And I didn't know anything about programming before that. I always thought it was just people typing in a bunch of random numbers. And against all expectations, I started to become really interested in it. Our professor was extremely good at explaining things, and even though some of the assignments we had to do every week were quite difficult and took a lot of time, I started to grasp how creative programming actually was, and I was super inspired by all the possibilities you had. So programming really opened a whole new world for me. It was around Christmas when I started considering staying in computer science. There were a lot of lectures that I really struggled with, and I was also having a difficult time learning while sitting in the lecture hall with 600 other people. So I knew that I didn't want to stay at this particular university. So I decided to transfer to another smaller university close to my hometown in Austria. I got accepted right away and I continued studying there. We were about 25 people in my year. Our professors were actually really good at explaining stuff, and even maths was nothing difficult for us. So I definitely felt like I made the right choice. In this university, we were required to do a 3-month internship in an IT company after our second year. And I was so scared that I would not be able to get an internship because it felt like all the other people of my year were kind of ahead of me. A lot of them went to those specific tech schools before university. So during the lectures, it felt like they already knew everything. Or at least that was what I told myself. I was still trying to grasp the basic concepts, and in my head, I was never gonna get on their level. I was struggling with some serious lack of self-confidence and imposter syndrome at that time. But luckily, my friends from university were always there to help me, support me, and cheer me up. Then I remember in my second year, for programming we had to do quite big assignments each week, and I managed to solve most of them on my own until at one point it was getting extremely complicated. So I reached out for help to a 5th semester I knew, and I was like, hey, I'm having a hard time understanding, I believe it was red-black trees. You had this assignment last year, could you please help me out and explain it to me? So he dedicated an afternoon and helped me with the assignment. And afterwards we were just chatting a little bit about uni, and I told him how nervous I was about the internship. He had already done his at that point, and he was also still working part-time at that company while he was doing his bachelor's degree. And I remember that moment so well because he basically told me, with the knowledge you have now, you're already ready for a job. And I remember looking at him like, what? Here I was in my 3rd semester, knowing nothing but the bare basics of how stuff work, feeling really bad most of the time because I felt like everyone else was doing better than I do. He looked at the red-black tree assignment and said, no one needs you to know how to implement a red-black tree at your job. And even if you do, you can just look it up on the internet. All you need to know are the basics, and everything else they will teach you there. And that conversation was literally the biggest turning point for me. I gained all my initial motivation back, and I was so curious and I wanted to find out what it was really like having a job in software engineering. So I applied right away for a smaller internship before the big one we were supposed to do. I interviewed at 2 different companies, and not only were they both offering me to do my small internship there, but they also wanted to have me for the 3-month internship as well. From this moment on, I had so much more confidence in myself, and I felt like all my hard work was finally paying off. So I ended up doing both my internships at the same company. I was working alongside their team, developing a security application for power supply systems. At university, we were taught Java, but during my internships, I was required to code in Python. So during that time, I also learned a new programming language, which was actually not too difficult to switch to. I gained a lot of new skills. The team was amazing. We had our own refrigerator with ice cream in our office, and we basically got free food all day. I also really liked the company culture. They were super welcoming, and I felt like a valid team member from day one, even though I was just an intern. So I graduated from university 1 year later, and even though I really enjoyed working at that company, I kind of wanted to move a little bit further away from my hometown in Austria, so I decided to move to Zurich in Switzerland. I actually moved there without having a job offer. I figured I might just find a job along the way, and I applied for a couple companies. Usually the application process has multiple steps. At most of the companies I interviewed for, I was first invited for more of a casual interview where they just wanted to get to know my personality, to see if I was a good fit for their company or not. And that was usually followed by 1 or more technical interviews. They ask you specific programming questions, or they give you specific problems to solve. There was this one company that kind of caught my eye from the beginning, and I interviewed with them and it just seemed like the perfect fit. They are developing applications specifically for other bigger companies, and since Zurich is kind of the financial capital of Switzerland, people who work in the Zurich office are mostly working on fintech projects, and that's where I ended up as well. I started my job 2 months ago, and again, I was extremely lucky with my team, and they always make sure that I understand everything. One of the senior engineers is like a mentor for me. He's explaining me how to do stuff, and he also teaches me new technologies. Their code base is huge, and in the beginning it was quite difficult navigating through the code and working with it, but everyone's super encouraging and motivating, so it was quite easy for me to find my place in the team. There's people from all over Europe working on that project, so even though we're based in Switzerland, our company language is English, and I think it's quite cool working with so many international people. So yeah, that's basically my whole story of how I got into software engineering. If you've watched until this point and you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Also, if you have any further questions or want to know more about my journey, leave them in the comments down below. Anyways, thanks for watching and see you in my next video.